In Greece, local media explicitly reports a plane crash.
Authorities say 2 Air Force pilots died from the mishap. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. Philippines and Malaysia reaffirm their thriving bilateral ties. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. monitors Typhoon Doksuri amid state visit to Malaysia. Wang Yi to replace Qin Gang as China's foreign minister. Taiwan continues its annual Hanguang drills despite Typhoon Doksuri's possible landfall. And Russian President Vladimir Putin to meet Chinese leader Xi Jinping in October. The Land Transportation Office, or LTO, receives the first batch of plastic license cards from Banner Plastic Art Incorporated. According to the Transportation Office, about 5,000 pieces of plastic license cards were delivered by the firm. The agency adds that there will be 5.2 million more license cards set to be delivered within the year. The Department of Transportation previously awarded the firm the contract in order to supply the plastic cards. This is to solve the estimated 700,000 backlog license cards by LTO. Under the contract, the firm is required to procure and deliver 1 million to 1.5 million cards every 60 days after the first delivery.
Senator Christopher Bongo taps the Department of Health and the Food and Drug Administration to draft a guideline for artificial sweeteners. According to Go, the purpose of the guideline is to remind the public of the potential health impacts of the sugar substitute. As the chairman of the Senate Committee on Health and Demography, Senator Go appealed to the departments to provide an explanation on the sugar substitute, aspartame, which is claimed to cause cancer. The World Health Organization, or WHO, previously categorized aspartame as a potentially carcinogenic substance. According to the International Agency for Research on Cancer of the WHO, aspartame is associated with a liver cancer known as hepatocellular carcinoma.
So the working group classified aspartame as possibly carcinogenic to humans, that is group 2B, based on limited evidence for cancer in humans. This was specifically for hepatocellular carcinoma, which is a type of liver cancer.
Meanwhile, Senator Go further urges the two agencies to launch an awareness campaign that promotes a balanced diet and overall well-being.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. congratulates the Philippine women's national football team for securing their first ever win at the FIFA Women's World Cup. The president expresses his elation and support for the team, encouraging them to continue breaking barriers and inspiring future generations. They defeated New Zealand by 1-0, marking a significant milestone for the Filipinas. The historic victory made their debut appearance in the prestigious tournament. The team's success propels them up in the group rankings, with the possibility of entering the qualifying matches if they secure a substantial win against Norway on the 30th of July.
Finance Secretary Benjamin Jokno announces that the Maharlika Investment Fund is expected to begin operations by early next year. The implementing rules and regulations are currently being worked on and will be ready for release in August. Despite concerns raised by various groups and economists, Jokno emphasizes that the fund will provide essential support for the government's infrastructure projects. It will offer an alternative avenue for funding without the need for borrowing, ultimately easing budgetary stress.
The Philippine National Police Anti-Cybercrime Group, or PNP-ACG, reports a significant rise in Facebook hacking incidents in the country over the past 3 years. Cyber criminals are using sophisticated methods to exploit compromised accounts, leading to severe financial and emotional consequences for their victims. According to the PNP ACG data, there were 503 reported cases in 2021, 1,402 in 2022, and 743 from January to June of 2023. The primary motive of these hackers is to manipulate the identity of compromised account owners for fraudulent schemes. PNP ACG emphasizes the importance of securing Facebook accounts to protect personal information and prevent further victimization of others. They encourage reporting any suspicious activity to Facebook support team or local law enforcement agencies.
The Commission on Higher Education, or CHED, refutes a fact-checking report claiming that President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. provided inaccurate figures on the number of Philippine higher education institutions, or HEIs. CHED Chairperson Prospero de Vera III asserts that there are indeed 52 recognized HEIs included in the World University Rankings. According to de Vera, these World University Rankings are Quacquarelli-Simmons, Times Higher Education, and the World University Rankings for Innovation, which are all recognized prestigious university rankings. CHED also reiterated said metrics are identified by the Commission pursuant to the implementing rules and regulations of Republic Act 11448, otherwise known as the Transnational Higher Education Law. De Vera urges the public to be cautious in accepting information from fact-checkers and encourages them to access rankings through official websites for accurate data.
Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin states that the Philippine government is exploring various options, including raising the West Philippine Sea issue at the United Nations General Assembly. Vin Pascua for the report.
Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin clarifies that while the administration is set on diplomacy, the president is firm on not surrendering any territory to foreign powers. His statement comes after President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. omitted mentioning the instances of harassment by the Chinese Coast Guard during his second State of the Nation address. He asserts that all options are open to resolve the West Philippine Sea issue, but emphasizes that China might still ignore any ruling given by the United Nations General Assembly, or UNGA. The Philippines and China have been in a territorial standoff over the contested area since the Permanent Court of Arbitration ruled in favor of the Philippines in 2016. China has refused to recognize the ruling ever since. Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri expresses support for a resolution at the UNGA urging the government to address China's aggression in the West Philippine Sea. The Armed Forces of the Philippines recently reported more than 50 Chinese vessels encroaching the islands within the West Philippine Sea. Vin Pascua reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. lauds the efforts of Filipino migrant workers in Malaysia for their endeavors for their loved ones. Eden Santos tells us more.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. arrived at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport for his three-day state visit to Malaysia. His visit is to reaffirm the thriving friendship and bilateral ties between the Philippines and Malaysia. The president, as part of his trip, meets with the Filipino community at the EQ Hotel. The president also notes that his travels to countries around the globe are aimed at securing investments for the Philippines. According to Philippines Ambassador to Malaysia, Charles Jose, there are around 900,000 Filipinos within the country. The Filipino envoy commends the Filipino migrant workers for their contributions to cement the strong economic ties between the two nations.
They contribute a lot to the Malaysian economy, especially our workers in doing work in plantation, in agricultural sector, because these industries are very important to the Malaysian economy, and these are the ones that are heavily dependent on foreign workers.
Ambassador Jose adds that the overseas Filipino workers contribute about 10% to the Philippines' gross domestic product. Eden Santos reporting for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is closely monitoring the effects of Typhoon Doksuri in the Philippines while on a 3-day state visit to Malaysia. The president instructed the national government to closely cooperate with local government units in affected areas. Department of Social Welfare and Development Secretary Rex Gatchalian highlights the importance of coordination between national and local governments. Over 173 million pesos in standby funds have been prepared with rescue teams ready to assist affected individuals. As the typhoon made landfall, TCWS number 3 remains in effect for northwestern Ilocos Norte. TCWS number 2 is also in effect in Cagayan, including Babuyan Islands, Kalinga, Abra, the rest of Ilocos Norte, Apayao, northern and central Ilocos Sur, western Mountain Province, and Batanes. The rest of Cagayan Valley and central Luzon is also reported to experience winds of up to 61 kilometers per hour alongside intermittent rains. The president assures the safety of nearly 40,000 affected families in different regions. Following his directives, the national government has already distributed food packs for 1.3 million families. Gatchalian emphasizes that their approach is proactive, ensuring that goods are in place even before the typhoon arrives.
Coming up, Taiwan's military conducts first anti-takeover drill at Taoyuan Airport. Russian President Vladimir Putin will visit China in October. And Chinese and Russian officials set to join North Korean armistice anniversary. Stay tuned, Matanang Agila International will return for more global news.
Are you looking where to invest? Paano mag-invest sa real estate na hindi kailangan ng malaking puhunan? Even in death, there are opportunities, business at that. We are going to speak with executives from St. John Memorial Park and Manila North Green Park to give us a wealth of knowledge and insights into buying crypts for future use as lasting tributes to our loved ones or as investments.
Ang tao kasi basically gusto nilang mag-invest for the future.
Ang crypt is also considered real estate. However, ang difference, pwede mo siyang i-compare sa insurance.
Open for business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m.
We now welcome you back to Matanang Agila International. Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang is removed from office. This comes after a few weeks of his unknown whereabouts. Qin Gang's disappearance sheds various rumors depicting him being involved in extramarital affairs as speculated by Chinese social media platforms. The Chinese Foreign Ministry has not given any information about Qin's condition. Meanwhile, political experts forecast that Wang Yi will replace Qin Gang as China's foreign minister.
I think Wang Yi replacing Qin Gang as China's foreign minister is likely a temporary arrangement, mainly to stop the negative press that China has been receiving internationally for not seeming to have a normal working foreign minister. And in any case, it looks really, really strange for Wang Yi to be repeatedly going to international meetings, performing foreign minister-like duties without having the appropriate title as foreign minister.
United States Deputy Spokesperson Vedant Patel is assured that Washington will continue its dialogues with Beijing despite any arrangements that will happen due to Kim's absence.
First, it is up to China to decide who their foreign minister is. As you know, Secretary Blinken has met with Wang Yi on multiple occasions, including on his most recent trip to Jakarta, as well as while he visited Beijing prior to that. We will continue to engage with Foreign Minister Wang Yi and other Chinese officials, and we continue to believe that keeping lines of communication are incredibly important.
On Wednesday, Taiwan's military has conducted its first ever anti-takeover drill at the country's major international gateway. The military exercise comes as Taiwan continued its annual live-fire Hankwang drills to test the armed forces' cross-branch coordination and emergency response capabilities during a simulated Chinese invasion. The drill happened at Taoyuan International Airport, where members of the Aviation and Special Forces Command and Army Airborne Special Forces posing as the Red invading forces with blue ground troops deployed to repel the takeover. Similar drills were previously staged at other airports in Taiwan, but never at the country's busiest civilian airport since it opened in 1981. The annual Hankwang exercises, which served as Taiwan's major war games since 1984, consist of live fire drills and computerized war games, which are meant to test Taiwan's combat readiness in the face of a possible Chinese invasion.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is scheduled to visit China in October. His visit will coincide with the One Belt, One Road forum that China will be hosting. During the visit, topics such as bilateral trade and economic cooperation will be discussed. The two leaders, Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping, will exchange views on the current international situation. This visit will mark the 18th time that Putin had visited China since 2000, with the last visit taking place during the opening ceremony of the Olympic Winter Games on February 4, 2022. Xi Jinping has visited Russia 8 times since taking office in 2013, and the two leaders have met at least 30 times in total.
Russia and China are sending government delegations to North Korea for the 70th anniversary of the armistice that halted the Korean War in the 1950s. The visit suggests North Korea opening its doors to new partners in the face of rising nuclear tensions with the U.S., Seoul, and Tokyo. North Korea's state media announced that a Russian delegation led by Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu has just arrived in Pyongyang. China's ruling Communist Party is also sending a mid-level official, Lee Hong-song, in hopes of restoring exchanges between the allies. North Korea has been preparing for the anniversary, likely to be capped off by a military parade in the capital, where Kim Jong-un could showcase his most powerful nuclear-capable missiles designed to target neighboring rivals. China has joined the UN in sanctioning North Korea over its missile and nuclear programs, but has also been a stable partner in preventing the collapse of the Kim's regime in the North Korean government.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is set to discuss Ukraine with leaders of African countries during the Russia-Africa Summit in St. Petersburg this week. Mark Tapel has the details.
Это важный шаг, несмотря на напряженную международную обстановку. Россия смогла найти возможность для проведения этого мероприятия. И что еще важнее,
The upcoming summit, with the participation of leaders from 49 African countries, will focus on the development of Russian-African cooperation, particularly in areas such as food, modern technologies, and energy resources. One of the main topics of the agenda will be the end of a deal allowing Ukrainian grain exports through the Black Sea to global markets, including Africa. Putin is expected to make significant statements on these matters during the summit. He will also hold individual meetings with several African leaders, including those from Cameroon, Senegal, South Africa, and the Central African Republic. This will be the second Russia-Africa Summit following the inaugural one in 2019 in Sochi.
Россия развивает отношения со всеми странами Африки. Советский Союз был довольно избирателен в своих партнерствах, поддерживал страны только социалистической ориентации, тогда как Россия отказалась от таких идеологизированных подходов и готова сотрудничать со всеми силами, которые изъявляют готовность к этому.
Mark Tapel, for mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo intends to visit China despite recent reports of her email account being breached by China-based hackers. She emphasizes the importance of engaging in business with China while still safeguarding national interests. She states that there are no national security risks when it comes to U.S. businesses selling consumer products in China. Trade tensions between the two countries persist, with the U.S. restricting sales of advanced microchips to China. Despite these challenges, there have been high-profile visits by U.S. officials to stabilize U.S.-China relations.
The U.S. has imposed top sanctions on 3 top officials of Mali's junta for their alleged involvement with a Wagner mercenary group. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that civilian casualties have tripled since Wagner forces were deployed to Mali in late 2021. Mali's government has never officially acknowledged Wagner's presence. The mercenary group is believed to have about 1,000 soldiers in Mali, one of several African states in which it operates. The 3 officials sanctioned were Defense Minister Asadio Camara, Air Force Chief Alu Boydara, and Air Force Deputy Chief Adama Bagayoko. Camara and Dayara are accused of planning and organizing Wagner's deployment to Mali, while Bagayoko faces charges for looking into Wagner's deployment to the neighboring country of Burkina Faso. A UN report released in May described how Malian soldiers, overseen by Wagner fighters, killed around 500 mostly unarmed civilians in a village in the Mopti region over 5 days. The Malian government denied wrongdoing and said it would investigate. It later told the UN to withdraw its 12,000-strong peacekeeping force, while Malian officials have said in the past that there are Russian military instructors in the country, but they have never admitted the presence of Wagner. Mali has been fighting Islamist militants for more than a decade.
U.S. President Joe Biden formally creates a new national monument memorializing the horrific 1950s lynching of Emmett Till. Rosel Feria has the details.
The White House frames the symbolic act as part of a fight against resurgent racism. The 1950s lynching of Emmett Till monument encompasses several locations. It will honor Till as well as his mother, Mamie Till Mobley. Till was the 14-year-old black boy who was tortured and murdered by white men in 1955 after he allegedly whistled at a white shopkeeper's wife in Mississippi. Before signing the document to establish the monument, President Joe Biden says Americans should know about the country, about everything. Biden says silence is complicity and that he will not be silent, nor should others be silent about what happened.
We can't just choose to learn what we want to know. We have to learn what we should know. We should know about our country. We should know everything, the good, the bad, the truth of who we are as a nation.
Rosel Feria for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Texas and the U.S. federal government are butting heads again. This after the state put up floating barriers and razor wire to block off the migrant crossing point this month. Danica Lee has more.
Governor Greg Abbott of Texas is defying the administration of President Joe Biden as the Justice Department sued his state for trying to block the U.S.-Mexican border. The state installed a floating barrier and razor wire along the Rio Grande River. The department told Texas late last week that the string of large buoys near Eagle Pass illegally obstructs river navigation and lacks federal permissions. The department says that the floating barrier poses threats to navigation and public safety and presents humanitarian concerns. In a reply letter addressed to Biden Monday, Abbott says he had the power to protect the sovereign interests of Texas by installing the buoys. Abbott accuses Biden of not fulfilling his own responsibilities to halt the flow of migrants over the southern border with Mexico. According to reports, some migrants have required rescue after being trapped in the razor wire. Hours after Abbott's letter was released, the Justice Department filed suit in federal court in Austin, Texas. It says the barrier violates the U.S. Rivers and Harbors Act. This establishes protections for public waterways under the oversight of the Army Corps of Engineers. Danica Lee for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Several presidential hopefuls in Argentina launched their agendas ahead of the upcoming October vote. Horacio Rodriguez Larreta from Juntos por el Cambio emphasizes the need for consistency and predictability in governance. Patricia Bullrich, also from Juntos por el Cambio, calls for bringing order to the country to address its challenges. Javier Milei from La Libertad Avanza proposes a significant change from the current model to prevent further impoverishment. Sergio Massa from Unidos por la Patria stresses the importance of credible and responsible economic policies over easy slogans. Each candidate offers their vision for the country's future to win the support of the electorate.
French President Emmanuel Macron's visit to New Caledonia comes amidst uncertainty over the archipelago's future following the contested 2021 vote on independence. Despite 3 failed independence votes, the issue of self-determination remains a pressing concern for many in the French territory. Macron is expected to meet with political leaders to discuss its future status. The pro-independence movement, supported by the indigenous Kanak population, seeks full sovereignty by 2025, while those against independence advocate for reducing New Caledonia's autonomy and further integration with France. The failure of the referendums necessitates finding a compromise to appease both sides and solidify the territory's status in the French constitution.
Nigeria's suspended central bank governor, Godwin Emefiele, has been charged with the legal possession of firearms 6 weeks after he posted bail for other charges. This is just the latest progression when it comes to the politician's lengthy rap sheet at the center of one of Africa's largest economies. Emefiele, who was suspended due to several accusations of influence, peddling, and terror financing, has long been at the heart of Nigeria's politics and finance sector. He was suspended not long after Bola Tinubu used the address at his May inauguration as president to criticize a key policy spearheaded by the central bank governor. Even before his arrest in the months between Mr. Tinubu's election victory and inauguration, it was clear the bank governor was in trouble. Emefiele, who served well into Tinubu's predecessor, Muhammadu Buhari, has been front and center during 2 recessions, skyrocketing inflation rates, and a strong currency devaluation. Emefiele has been a frequent subject of the Nigerian spotlight for several questionable decisions, such as paying ransoms to known kidnappers and ordering mass deforestations to smoke out rebels and dissenters. Emefiele is most known for frequently minting new currency in order for politicians to be able to hoard the newly minted notes to induce voters on election day.
According to the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, a global economy continues to gradually recover from the pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine war, but says growth remains weak. Bernadette Manuel has the details.
According to the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, there are signs of progress as the global economy continues to gradually recover from the COVID-19 pandemic and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Yet, it says it is too early to celebrate as many challenges are still present on the horizon. The IMF on Tuesday, in their World Economic Outlook update, says while the United States and India see their economic projections going upward, China's underperforming reopening, in part due to unresolved real estate problems, is dragging down the global economic recovery. Under the IMF's baseline forecast, growth will slow down from last year's 3.5% to 3% this year and next, a 0.2 percentage point upgrade for 2023 from the financial agency's April projections. The 0.2% spike from April's forecast was partly driven by increased post-pandemic travel. The slowdown is concentrated in advanced economies, where growth will fall 1.5% this year and remain subdued at 1.4% next year. The euro area, still reeling from the war and severe wildfires, is set to decelerate sharply. The IMF further says that although the outlook for the global economy is looking slightly brighter, it remains below the 3.8% average seen in the pre-pandemic years and 2019. Bernadette Manuel for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Up next, Harvard University faces federal investigation. Nations around the Mediterranean battles deadly fires. And 2 pilots die after firefighting plane crashes in Greece. Mata ng Agila International will be back after a short break. Don't go away.
This portion is brought to you by
Kamusta na nga ba ang karir ni Juan de la Cruz? Ano-ano nga ba ang career goals natin sa panahon ngayon?
I believe also na what's meant to happen to us will happen. So parang yung pagbiging broadcaster, hindi ko talaga siya pinlano.
I took fashion design. Sorry to say, but I quit.
Oh.
I quit kasi gusto ko talaga mag-abroad at magtrabaho. Litong-lito talaga yung mind ko.
Right now, mahirap bigyan ng direksyon ng bata pagdating sa career path. Dahil in the next 5 to 10 years, makakakita tayo ng mga career na hindi pa natin nakikita.
Ilan nga ba sa ating mga Pilipino ang nakakamit ang kanilang mga pangarap na trabaho? Mag-reality check tayo.
Independent experts investigating the 2014 disappearance of 43 Mexican students say the state was responsible for the concealment of vital information. This concealment, they say, makes it impossible to continue their work. Carlo Valdez has more.
The interdisciplinary group of independent experts releases a 6th and final report on one of the country's worst human rights atrocities. A member of the commission, Carlos Beristain, says they were unable to continue their investigation given the concealment and insistence on denying things that are obvious. Beristain says the withholding of information has become a responsibility of the state. The experts again questioned the actions of the Mexican army in the case. The army's involvement shocked the country and drew international condemnation. The report says not only did the army allow the attacks to happen, but it later covered up and did not provide truthful information about what occurred. The students at a teacher training college had taken possession of buses in the southern state of Guerrero. They were to travel to a demonstration in Mexico City, but then they went missing. Investigators say the students were detained by corrupt police and headed over to a drug cartel. They say, however, that what exactly happened is unclear. Last year, a truth commission tasked by the government to investigate the atrocity branded it a state crime. The commission says the military shared responsibility either directly or through negligence. Carlo Valdez for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Harvard University is under investigation for its undergraduate admissions policy that allegedly discriminates on the basis of race. Stephanie Mayo has the details.
The U.S. Department of Education Office for Civil Rights has opened a federal investigation on Harvard University's undergraduate admissions process. The complaint claims that Harvard discriminates applicants on the basis of race by using donor and legacy preferences. The probe comes several weeks after 3 minority organizations filed a civil rights suit against Harvard. They are the Chica Project, the African Community Economic Development of New England, and the Greater Boston Latino Network. These minority advocacy groups claim that Harvard University gives preferential treatment to students with familial ties to wealthy donors and alumni. Legacy admissions policies, which give preference to college applicants whose parents or family members attended a particular school, are a controversial but widespread practice in U.S. colleges and universities. Advocacy groups consider such practice discriminatory as it favors applicants more likely to be white and wealthier, and that it violates the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, or national origin. The complaint against Harvard, filed on July 3rd, alleges that nearly 70% of those who benefit from the legacy admission system are white. Stephanie Mayo for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Police in Colombia shot and killed 2 chimpanzees that escaped from a zoo in the western city of Pereira. Police say they had no choice because the animals presented a danger to humans. David Oria has more details.
The 2 immensely powerful primates named Pancho and Chile got loose Sunday night from the Ucumari Biopark. The escape prompted authorities to warn people to stay indoors. Several hours later, police found Pancho alone, about 2.5 kilometers from the zoo. When the animal appeared to lunge for a zookeeper with the rescue team, police opened fire. A police official told a local radio station that they had been ordered to shoot in the case of an attack. An army colonel at the scene says despite efforts made to subdue the animal with tranquilizer darts, its proximity to the rescue team made it a danger. Chile, a female chimp, died after being shot by police near the zoo. No details have been released about that shooting. The zoo says the chimps escaped due to human error. David Oria for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
A drone capable of carrying passengers carries out its first delivery flying in European airspace. Its first cargo of bags of blood. JC Yumel tells us more.
No passengers were on board this 2-seater drone presented by the company Helicus. The EH-216 simulates the delivery of the blood bags from one point to another above a dedicated runway. This over a distance of 1 kilometer. The drone follows an automatic route. There is no pilot on board. Director Tomi Nabjowski of the Redcos production says this new type of aircraft will be very useful for medical purposes, particularly for transporting not only blood but also medical personnel to disasters. The vehicle currently costs between 300,000 and 1 million pounds. The cost does not include infrastructure needed to operate it. Helicus CEO says it should be in service in 10 years' time. JC Yumul for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Fires are raging again in a Tunisian pine forest near the border with Algeria. This after another blaze in the area last week. Rose Papaangeles reports.
Flames were fanned by winds and temperatures which neared 50 degrees Celsius. At least 300 people were evacuated by sea and by land from the nearby village of Maulula. During last week's fire, a border crossing had to close temporarily. Tunisian officials confirmed that 470 hectares of forest had been burned. Meanwhile, in neighboring Algeria, wildfires raging across the country during a blistering heat wave have killed at least 15 people. It has forced mass evacuations. As temperatures hit 48 degrees Celsius in parts of the North African country, it recorded 97 blazes across 16 provinces, fanned also by strong winds. The fires injured 26 people. They have raged through residential areas. According to officials, some 1,500 people were evacuated from the Vijaya, Buwira, and Jaijal provinces east of the capital, Algiers. Rosa Pa Angeles from Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
As extreme heat is being felt around the globe, nations around the Mediterranean battle deadly fires. In Greece, authorities have evacuated thousands of people from fire areas, including tourist islands of Rhodes and Corfu. Fires have also flared in Italy, where firefighters battle wildfires in Sicily that has approached close to Palermo airport, causing it to shut down for several hours on Tuesday. Flames also killed dozens of people in Algeria earlier in the week, with scorching heat leaving landscapes tinder dry. Dozens of firefighters, meanwhile, battled a wildfire near Croatia's southern city of Dubrovnik, with water-bombing planes dispatched to help contain the blaze. According to the National Meteorological Service, temperatures are expected to hit between 43 to 45 degrees Celsius or 109 to 113 degrees Fahrenheit in central and southern Greece. Scientists from the World Weather Attribution Group said that the heat waves that have hit parts of Europe and North America this month would have been almost impossible without human-caused climate change.
2 Greek Air Force pilots died when their water-bombing plane crashed while battling a forest fire on the island of Evia. The pilots were named as 34-year-old Christos Molas and his co-pilot, 27-year-old Peraklis Stefanidis. Greek media showed that the aircraft is flying low to drop water on a fire before turning sharply into a hillside and bursting into flames. The plane crashed over the town of Charistos on the island, where it was among the 3 other aircraft and about 100 firefighters tackling fires on Evia. A 3-day mourning period is declared in the armed forces for the loss of life in the line of duty of the Air Force officers.
In Ecuador, some 2,700 soldiers stormed a prison Tuesday to retake control. This as the death toll from a riot 3 days earlier rises to 18 inmates. Ana Cui has more details.
The Ecuadorian prosecutor's office confirms the deaths of 18 prisoners. It says 11 others, including a policeman, were injured in the ongoing confrontation between rival gangs at the overcrowded, violence-riddled Guayas 1 prison in the port city of Guayaquil. The armed forces say troops and police entered the prison Tuesday morning to restore order. They searched for arms, ammunition, explosives, and other illegal items used in running battles. The raid comes as the government declares a state of emergency in force in all prisons for 60 days. This following the latest in a string of bloody riots that have claimed at least 420 lives in Ecuadorian prisons since 2021. Many of the victims were either beheaded or burnt alive. The riots pit gangs with links to drug traffickers against one another in a country that has emerged as a key player in the South American cocaine trade. Ana Cui from Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Any efforts by Russia to prevent grain from leaving Ukraine would be completely unacceptable, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said Tuesday, as his foreign minister warned that civilian ships in the Black Sea could be targeted. From London, England, Beverly Madrid has the details.
Controversial plans by London's Mayor Sadiq Khan to extend a scheme taxing the use of the most polluting vehicles were blamed on Friday for costing his opposition Boris Johnson's parliamentary seat, Labour Party. Sadiq Khan intends to expand the ultra-low emission zone, or ULEZ, to the entire British capital on August 29 unless the High Court makes a last-ditch attempt to stop it. The scheme first introduced in central London in 2019 and separate from its 2-decade-old congestion charge, requires the most polluting vehicles to pay a toll of £12.50 or $16 on days driven within its borders. Amid the worst cost of living crisis in a generation, the looming enlargement has sparked fury on the outskirts of London, where a by-election was held in former Prime Minister Johnson's Uxbridge and South Risley seats on Thursday. Labor was expected to seize the electorate as dissatisfaction with the ruling Conservatives' handling of the economy grows, and the scandalous legacy of Johnson's tenure continues to weigh on the party. But Steve Tackwell, the Tory candidate, spearheaded his campaign around the ULIS extension, tapping into local opposition for a surprise victory. Khan on Friday defended the expansion decision as difficult but necessary amid internal labor rancor over his role in Uxbridge. The defeat could have big ramifications for British politics and for the fate of environmental policies, as net zero emissions and clean air targets clash with the shorter-term priorities of increasingly cash-strapped voters. YouGov poll on Friday found half of Britons now oppose ULIS-like surcharges in their local area, a 9-point increase in 2 years, with only around a third voicing support. This is Beverly Madrid, UK Bureau for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
In Australia, more than 50 pilot whales died after stranding themselves on a beach. The pod of about 100 pilot whales was spotted off coast near Cheney's Beach. The state's Parks and Wild Service says that 51 of them died overnight. The volunteers, however, are optimistic that the rest will survive. Those who volunteered boarded kayaks to help herd the whale to pass the rocky part of the coast and out into deeper waters. Meanwhile, marine scientists say pilot whales frequently form mass strands due to their strong familial bond. They note that it was important for the pod to refloat together.
Coming right up, car manufacturer Ford launches hands-free driving in the United Kingdom. Paris unveils 2024 Olympic torch. And hip-hop and rap icon Tupac Shakur's ring sells for record $1 million. Catch more news in business, tech, sports, and entertainment when we return.
Abangan sa Counterpoint.
Kailangan kasi ma-deliver mo muna yung fact sa mga tao unless your opinion is needed.
Model at beauty queen. Sa dami ng kanyang ginagampanan, sino nga ba si Emma Tiglao?
Muntik na ako mag-stop ng college. Meron pang time, Attorney Sal, dapat magsa-stop muna for one sem. So what I did is nangutang ako.
Nabayaran
kasi,
mo ba?
Nabayaran, Attorney Sal, kasi yun yung pinanalunan ko for Mutya ng Pilipinas.
Ngayong Miyerkules alas 10:30 ng gabi, dito lang sa Net 25. Ito bang arbitral ruling na iginawad pabor sa Pilipinas? Never na i-implement. Kaya yung tagumpay natin, hungkag, hindi ho totoong tagumpay.
Wall Street stocks were mixed early Tuesday following a round of generally positive earnings. This as markets looked ahead to a Federal Reserve interest rate decision. Bobby Soriano reports.
Shares of General Electric, Sherwin-Williams, and 3M all enjoyed strong gains following earnings reports, but General Motors and Kimberly-Clark shares declined. Besides the heavy earnings calendar, markets are also looking ahead to Wednesday's Fed meeting. The central bank is expected to lift interest rates. Markets, however, are looking for clues on whether to expect further rate hikes after that. Among individual companies, aerospace and defense firm RTX slumped more than 15%. This comes after its Pratt & Whitney division announced the need for inspections on delivered jets over the next 9 to 12 months. Inspections are due to a rare condition in powdered metal used in engine manufacturing. Bobby Soriano from Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Tottenham owner Joe Lewis has been indicted for engaging in insider trading. Catherine Ortula has the details.
Tottenham owner Joe Lewis has been indicted for allegedly organizing an insider trading scheme. Insider trading is a highly illegal practice where an individual uses confidential information to influence friends and associates about when to buy and sell shares. The U.S. Attorney's Office alleges that the British billionaire has repeatedly provided inside information to his romantic partners, his personal assistants, his pilots, and his friends. The indictment says Lewis and his associates were able to make millions of dollars using stolen information. Lewis has been charged with 16 counts of securities fraud and 3 counts of conspiracy. Lewis is accused of sharing information between 2019 and 2021 about companies, including Australian Agriculture Corporation, Mirati Therapeutics, and Solid Biosciences. In 2019, indictment says Lewis's girlfriend bought $700,000 of shares in Solid Biosciences after he told her about the results of a clinical trial. In the same year, Lewis is accused of advising 2 of his pilots to sell their shares in Australian Agriculture Corporation because of flooding in Queensland. Between 2013 and 2018, Lewis is accused of conspiring to defraud Mirati, U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, and investors by hiding his stake in Mirati using shell companies and other means. The Tottenham club owner said that this matter is unconnected with the football club and has denied to comment on the matter any further. Catherine Ortula for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
In Gaza, Palestine, residents have invented a robot for planting seeds via phone app. To tell us more, here is RT correspondent Maria Finoshina.
It's not in Silicon Valley. It's in the Gaza Strip, in a suburb of the southern city of Khan Yunis, that we meet the Abu al-Ros family. And their workshop, with us being the first media crew ever allowed inside, is not Steve Jobs' garage. But the robot developed here has made it to a prestigious international competition, won a bronze medal, and impressed the judges. The idea came about naturally from a turbulent life.
The majority of our land is on the border. These borders are not safe for farmers to go and farm their land. In some unstable situations, this will threaten the lives of the farmers. We decided that we can build a robot. This robot will go and distribute the seeds for the farmer. In case of any unstable situation, we can lose a robot instead of losing a human.
2 teenagers, just 14 and 16 years old, with their father, make up the team behind the project. Ibrahim and Malak love what they do and they seem fully committed. They even spend their pocket money on spare parts for their robots. Finding proper parts in Gaza is nearly impossible, so the kids must reinvent them and make components out of other components.
The unique thing and the biggest challenge about being in Gaza is that some spare parts are not available here. Some other stuff we ordered and it was never delivered. But under those circumstances and the blockade, we still could invent robots which could help the whole world and not only the people of Gaza.
The World Robot Olympiad was first held almost 20 years ago and has since attracted thousands of teams from over 85 countries. The Abu al-Ros family was proud to represent Palestine.
It means a lot. It means that we are Palestinians, we exist, we are here. We are here to show the world we can work, we can create, we are creative people. We can participate like any other nation.
The finals were held in Germany. For Malak and Ibrahim, 2 Palestinian children, victims of the Israeli blockade of Gaza who need approval from authorities to travel, it was their first trip abroad. The family was stopped at the Egyptian border for hours. Their robot looked suspicious, but no challenge or obstacle could stop them.
I'm so proud to represent Palestine on the international platform, in international competitions, showing different projects. It could be the future of our family to make even more robots which everybody can use.
The idea of the next project came in the wake of the deadly earthquake in Turkey that took the lives of thousands of people. The rescue robot will look for survivors in rubble, clearing their escape route. This year's competition comes in fall. If the Abuelos family beats all local teams, they will take their robotic solution to the global stage once again.
Truly innovative ideas are coming from a rather ordinary Palestinian family living in this house behind me in the south of Gaza. With just a little bit of investment, they say their projects can save lives and ease work. But what they are doing already is changing the image of Gazan people worldwide. Marifanoshina Ati reporting from Gaza.
American multinational automobile manufacturer Ford launches its hands-free car model on United Kingdom's motorways. From London, England, here's Ariane Celestino for the report.
In a scene Ford hopes to see across Europe soon. The first hands-free car model allowed on the UK's fastest roads zoomed down a motorway before slowing down as the back of a truck appeared. Traveling at 60 miles per hour, the small SUV remained within its lane as an AFP journalist took a ride in the driver's seat along the M11 motorway north of London. Ford activated the Blue Cruise self-drive option on its electric flagship, the Mustang Mach-E, in the UK in April. After debuting in the United States in 2021, the option is now available on 3,700 miles of UK Blue Zones motorways, equipped with 4 lanes and central dividers, from Dover to Scotland. While the driver's hands are free, the car ensures that there is no fiddling with phones and that eyes are fixed on the road, thanks to several cameras and infrared sensors. The onboard computer offers to take over driving duties when it enters the motorway, but when it detects that the driver has looked away for 10 seconds, a voice says, "Look at the road, resume control." If the warning is not heeded, the car will slam on the brakes and sound warnings. Some 500 early adopters have joined the trial in Britain, paying £17.99 per month. Ford claims that 200,000 drivers use it with no accidents. Competitor General Motors also offers hands-free driving, as does Mercedes on the German Autobahn, but only in traffic jams with a maximum speed of 60 kilometers imposed. From London, United Kingdom, this is Ariane Celestino for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
1 year and 1 day before the opening ceremony of the Paris 2024 Olympic Games, the Olympic torch was unveiled in the presence of a delegation of French athletes, IOC President Thomas Bach, and sprint legend Usain Bolt. The torch, where the Olympic flame will burn, is a sleek silver-colored cylinder of recycled steel that is gracefully tapered at both sides. Paris organizers unveiled French designer Mathieu Leheneux's torch design as part of a week of activities that mark the year-to-go countdown to the July 26th opening. Paris is using the same torch design for both the Olympics and Paralympic Games. Once lit in ancient Olympia, Greece, the flame will be transported by boat to the southern French city of Marseille. The torch relay will start from there on May 8, with 10,000 torchbearers taking turns to carry it, with the last of them lighting the cauldron at the opening ceremony. In a special auction marking the 50th anniversary of hip-hop, rap icon Tupac Shakur's gold and ruby diamond crown ring just sold for $1 million. Auctioneers and onlookers alike were pleasantly treated by the surprise winning bid for an item that was projected to go for just $200,000. At $1 million, this makes it the most valuable hip-hop artifact ever sold. Machiavelli donned the ring during his final public appearance at the MTV Video Music Awards 1996. Just days after the event, the young rapper allegedly met his untimely end due to a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas. The ring's design was the product of Tupac's creative vision influenced by his admiration for Niccolo Machiavelli's political manifesto, The Prince. Drawing inspiration from the majestic crowns worn by medieval European kings, he collaborated with his godmother, Yasmin Fula, to bring his vision to life. In 2020, Sotheby's staged the first ever international auction devoted entirely to artifacts from the hip-hop world. The plastic crown worn by the famed rapper Notorious B.I.G. in a 1997 photo shoot sold for just $600,000.
And to help you get through this week, here's a quote from American professor and author Brené Brown. Vulnerability is not knowing victory or defeat. It's understanding the necessity of both. It's engaging. It's being all in.
A lot of people are scared to be vulnerable, but I think it actually shows strength.
That is so true. And I believe that to really appreciate life, you have to love it, flaws and all.
So maybe that's something we can think about today. And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. Stay tuned for tonight's episode of Counterpoint with attorney Salvador Panelo and Net25 host and news anchor Emma Tiglao. This is Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.